What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Cryptographics. If you're wondering why I don't have a mic in front of me, that's because I don't know what's happening right now, but my mic's not working. So we're just going to go with this. I apologize in advance about the audio in this video. I don't know what to do about what's just happening, so I'll have to figure that out for the next one, which is hopefully very soon. But welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be going over a ton. We're going to be going over staking, this massive payout date that's coming in like 7 days now. We're going to be talking about mining. We're going to be talking about some strategic stuff, and we're going to be talking about hyper and whatever other questions you have. So before we get into the stream, let me just quickly bring all the comments up and welcome you guys in here. So I see Scan QR by the dip. Yep. Thank you for being here. Giftbird. What's up, my dude? Good to see you. And we got Jamie X. What's up, man? Gaming Pro. Luke Digny. Pod Pro. Hala. We got Luke D. Arthur Walsh. Good day. Good day from Vegas. From Vegas? Brisbane? Not sure what you mean with that one. Awesome. Yeah. Jamie X. Pulse Debater. Volt, my brother. What's up, man? Sweet. So let's get right into it. The first thing that I have for you guys. Now, I've been seeing a ton of comments regarding the payouts. So a lot of questions around how do these payouts work? Like, how can Titan keep paying out this amount of TITANX? How does this work? Or not TITANX, but how can it keep paying out ETH? Are these payouts sustainable? Is it a scam? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down to you how this all works. So you know that the money's not just being pulled from thin air. It's not unsustainable, so to speak. It is perfectly reasonable where it's all coming from and why these payouts are occurring in the way that they are. So let's pause right there and let's go to the mining site. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to break you down. We're going to look at the payouts. Okay, so first, I've had a lot of comments about, like I was saying, about these 8-day, 28. How can these just keep going into perpetuity? How is this possible? Well, they don't just come from, like, the system itself isn't generating them. It's not just getting populated ETH from nowhere. So these cycles, 8-day, 28, 90, 369, and 888-day payout cycles, these cycles roll into perpetuity. But every time a payout cycle resets, that does not guarantee that the next one is going to have as much. It doesn't also guarantee that the next payout of that cycle won't have more. It all depends on the one thing that feeds all these payout cycles, and that is miners. When you mine, or I mine, or anybody mines, 62% goes to what is called buy and burn, which I've actually been getting a lot of questions on the buy and burn as well, both in private calls and just on YouTube and other comments as well. So we can go over that in a little bit, but 62% goes to the buy and burn. And actually right now it's 69%, but we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. That's a little Easter egg. But what happens is there's obviously 38% left over. 28% of that goes and gets distributed to these payout pools. And 28%, so if you can think about 28% that's taken from these miners, right? That is 100% of that bit that it gets, right? 100, like that 28%, whatever that is a certain amount. And of that 28%, 28% of that goes to the 8-day cycle, and 28% goes to the 28-day payout cycle. So these ones generate their payout cycle amounts the quickest, which is why we're seeing the 28-day payout cycle for the next one is almost 3 million. And though the 8-day payout cycle literally just finished only 2 days and is on its 3rd day now, it's already generated $237,000 in this next payout cycle. So that's as simple as it is. It's nothing complex. It's nothing back-end weird like admin stuff. It's just straight up and down. What you and I put in contributes to other parts of the system. And when we place value into the system, that value gets dispersed. It doesn't just go poof, gone. It gets dispersed to different areas of the system to leverage that value and allow others or other pieces of the system to attract users or to support the market, like the buy and burn is. And in this case, 28% of all the value that comes into this system gets placed into these pools. So you and I, or anyone that wants to, can go in and stake by going to the stake page here and typing in our amount that we want to stake for, as well as the number of days that we want to stake for. And we'll get into the specifics of this in a bit, because there's a calculator on here that I want to go to. But where you can go, like, you might be thinking, okay, how do I know this? Well, it's actually really simple. I'm not just I haven't gone on the blockchain and done everything, but what I have done, and it's very simple, is you go to the documentation under the More tab. You click Docs. And then when this loads, we go to virtual mining, or sorry, mining ETH distribution on the left-hand side here. And then if we scroll down just a tad, we're going to get this distribution breakdown right here, ETH distribution. 62% of ETH gets sent to the decentralized buy and burn. 28% goes to the payout cycles, 7% goes to the burn pool, and 3% of ETH goes to Genesis. And if we were to go, I think there's even, if we go to the payouts, can't remember exactly which one, I think it's staking here. We go down to the staking distribution, it's going to show us even further that 8 and 28 get 28% of that 28% that is sent to the staking, and 18% goes to the 90-day, 18% also goes to 369, and 8% goes to the 888-day rolling payout. And all these are into perpetuity. So what I want you to gather from this is these cycles will continue on forever. It does not necessarily mean that ETH is going to be in every single payout. ETH will only be in the payouts if people are participating in the system. If no one's participating in the system, there's going to be probably no ETH in those payouts for the shorter term ones, and for the longer term ones, if it's dead for a while, once the 93, 69, and 888-day payouts are done, they're probably not going to regenerate. So these staking payouts only work because there's participation in the system right now. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to check in, see how you guys are doing. And is this making sense? Yeah. If you're here, I would love it if you were to go and smash the like and share. It would be awesome. Let's get this information out to everybody. I'm going to try and chop these pieces up later because, you know, there's a lot of, we're going to go through a lot of valuable stuff today. So, and Hodpearl says, and technically, someone can literally plop TITANX in the last hour before a payout and self-delete the pool. Yeah, 100%. You only have to be in that pool at the moment of the payout. And we can talk about how that all works and the timing in a moment, because there's a lot of small things you want to be sure of here. But yeah, hasn't really happened. And I mean, really, if someone is a whale, then this, like someone who has a ton of TITANX, like billions and billions of TITANX, could dilute everybody by staking last minute. You know, and I mean, it is what it is. I don't really know that there's, I mean, there are a few players that I've seen that are very large and they're already, I think, in the staking pool. And there are some that are mining, but those miners are still like days and days and days and days and days out, like 100 plus, 200 plus days. So we don't have to necessarily worry about those guys coming in and diluting. I think in this sense, you know, the most likely thing, at least in my opinion, is to have a flood of people that are coming in at the same time instead of one or two people. Like if we were to go to the, I think this is the buy and burn. Okay, let me just share this tab real quick with you guys. And let's go to the TITANX community dashboard built by Mike Dean. And if you haven't, if you've been using this dashboard, guys, feel free to toss them something, even if it's a couple bucks, to his donation address here. This is an amazing, amazing website that he's built. It has so much to offer. So if we're going to go down, though, we're going to go and look at the supply coming out here, or coming in. And we know that December 22nd is this next payout, which we're going to talk about because it's a very big deal. But we know there's a lot of supply coming out all the way up until the 22nd. So if we add this up roughly, there's 571 billion coming out the day before. There's 423 billion coming out on the 21st, 2 days before. There is 300. So basically, there's like 1.3 trillion coming out in 3 days before that staking pool comes out. So in terms of dilution, I think this is the most likely thing that we're going to see, is a lot of this getting staked in that pool. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to check back in with you guys. Let's see here. Yeah, staking is going to dry up and or get more competitive. So don't lose sight of the TITANX value over time. And this is a great comment because staking now is really, you can mine or you can stake, or you can play other games like you try trading and all sorts of stuff, if you want to go that route. But really within the system, there is the staking and the mining game, or holding, but really there's staking and mining. So if we break down the opportunities right now into staking and mining, really you're in two camps or three. You're either going to do a bit of both or one or the other, right? So right now though, because everyone only has those two or three choices really, this is obviously going to get saturated. Mining is going to get saturated. And I think mining will be saturated, pretty much always to a degree. Who knows about the shorter stuff? That's a whole other conversation, because as the difficulty of the system increases in terms of acquiring TITANX, shorter mining is not necessarily going to be as lucrative depending on where the price is. And well, again, a lot more on this later, because I know there's a lot of details that need to be added to glue this all together so that you can understand exactly what I'm saying here. But where I'm going with this is, in the future, TITANX is going to get burnt in large quantities. And why? Well, we know that if we go over to the documentation and I bring you to the TITANX fundamentals, and we go down to the, actually, I believe it is the, where is it? Is it proof of burn builder? I can't remember where it is actually. I might have to scroll through here for a second. Let's see. I believe burn details, proof of burn. Where is it? Oh, that's because I need to scroll down a little further. Sorry about that. So Hyper, we know that Hyper's coming. Hyper will be the first protocol to be built on top of TITANX. Confidential for now, but we know Hyper's coming, and Hyper, as all the streams with Jake have shown us, is meant to burn TITANX. That's its job. Its job is to create an incentive for you and I to want to cash in on that incentive. And in exchange for that, we have to burn our TITANX. And so right now, there's a lot of staked TITANX. And if we also go back to that dashboard and we go down to our staking dashboard, we can see that 3,500 days, or 2888, is a very popular number. And it's the vast majority of stakes are going for that long. And that implies something interesting. That implies that a lot of people are planning on leveraging an opportunity in the future. It may not be Hyper, it may be something else that comes, but they're leveraging staking for the longest period, which acquires you the most amount of shares per dollar that you're staking in the pool. They're thinking of burning at some point, or they're just absolutely nuts and they're gonna go for 10 years, which is awesome. Kudos to you. So what this means though is that because you have the majority of people that are staking for that long, there's a majority of people in the staking pool are probably thinking about burning. And what happens when you burn? Well, the supply is going to shrink like crazy. And what's important to understand about this, because we're not just talking about supply in general, because liquid supply and stake supply impact the system as a whole differently. So if we're going to go to our stats here, we can look at the staked TITANX. And right now is about 1.4 trillion. If the majority of this were to be burnt for Hyper, what do you think this is going to do? I'm gonna pause and I want to see in the comments. I want to see your guys' answers. What's going to happen here when the stakes start to get burnt? Okay, I'm gonna pause. Waiting. Okay, we're gonna keep going then. What happens here is when we are looking at the staking pool, and if we go to the rewards, let's type in, let's do staking, we're gonna do the max length. Like let's say you're staked max length, just because you're thinking about this opportunity too. But you wanna play your cards right. So you're giving yourself maximum leverage in the staking pool, and you're giving yourself maximum leverage in terms of getting out of it at any time when you wanna burn for Hyper or any of these other protocols that are coming in the future. So let's type in 1 billion, which is $6,000. And for $6,000, in the next payout, you're going to get $2,300 And at the moment, you're going to get $195 just from the next two payouts, which happen to land on the same day, which we're going to talk about in a moment. If though, what happens here is if the amount of TITANX in the pool, the staking pool, gets cut in half because of a burning, what does that do to the rewards in the staking pool? Think about that for a second. I'm going to ask it again. If 50% of the staking pool gets burned for Hyper or for anything else, so 50% of the TITANX in the staking pool gets burned, what happens to the payouts? They go up by 100%. So that means if 50% of TITANX in the staking pool was to be burned today, your payout would double because your share of the pool would go up by 2, right? Think about it. If the price on any price chart goes down by 50%, it takes a doubling of price to get back up to that spot, right? If you cut where we are now, 5 zeros and a 6 in half, you get 5 zeros and a 3. Go back up, it's double. So you're going to get twice the amount of TITANX shares in the pool in terms of the relative size of your position, which is really interesting to think about. So this is a great comment, and it's very important to understand that as Hyper comes out, as other protocols come out, if you are in the staking pool for every 56 days, so basically day 56, day 112, day 168, and so on, you're going to get these bigger payouts that, and one thing that's interesting here to note is that we don't fully know when Hyper is going to come out. Like there's speculation end of January, end of February, but there's been no public announcements, and we're kind of just left up in the air by that. So what happens though, regardless of when it launches, is if Hyper launches, and the one thing we know about Hyper is that there's an 8-day waiting period if you want to burn your TITANX for Hyper to take advantage of whatever the opportunity is in terms of incentive. Within that 8-day period, if there is a stake payout, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to be torn. That's going to be a hard decision because if you have to wait 8 days to get your Hyper, but in the middle of that is going to be a staking payout, if everyone still goes, you could actually be up massive because people are going to have to make a decision. And if everyone goes, well, you could stay in that staking pool, reap the rewards, and then burn at a later date, and it's up, and you're still going to be up because you've got double the amount of payout from that cycle. So there's a ton of stuff to consider here when it comes to the future of TITANX. And if we even go further back to the stats, I want you to pay attention to two things here, okay? One is the number of days at the top right, which says day 50, okay? Right here. The other is the TITANX burn supply, which is already 57%. And we've had another 100 billion liquid come on the supply, as well as another 100 billion, staked over the last handful of days. And the buy and burn is still being able to gobble up a ton of TITANX for almost 4 trillion at this point. So this is just one factor. So you've got the buy and burn just with Titan that is gobbling up 56% of the supply. What happens when Hyper and Titan and all 6 metrics that they all have for burning TITANX and Hyper come into play? You're going to have an ultra competitive environment because staking Titan is easy right now because it doesn't take a ton of economic energy to get like 6, 7, 8, 9 figures of TITANX, which as you were seeing in the calculator, if we go here and we just type in $1 billion, which is $6,000, right? And right now, like to acquire this is not too difficult with mining right now when you're putting in a handful of miners or a couple miners and you stake long enough, depending on what that's going to be for you. And we can actually do that in a second here. But when it's difficult to get $1 billion, because on day 84, the amount of TITANX goes down by 25% that you can mine for the same amount, actually for more than original cost of ETH. So you get less and it costs way more by probably 30% by just day 84. And that continues to go down and down and down. So it's going to get very difficult as time goes on to acquire large amounts of TITANX to get into the staking pool. So it's important to understand this, and how now is we are in one situation because of hyperinflation and just the launch in general. But this will go off, and this will change completely in the coming months. And maybe it'll change drastically after August of next year, because we know there's a big supply shock coming out. There's trillions and trillions coming out. So maybe it takes until after that for the staking pool to really start to see a hit competitively. But I love this comment, and I know I just went and did an entire TED talk on that, but I really hope that this is starting to hit home of the importance of understanding the staking pool. You don't have to participate, but it's important to understand, so that way when you are strategizing, you're able to actually go in and make moves with foresight and not just in the moment here, right? There's a lot that goes into this. Sethrino says, thanks for streaming. If the payout cycle has proceeded, for example, 25%, is it possible to get a rough estimate of the end value of this cycle by dividing the current value with it? Is, but the thing is like, if we go to our miner page, which is, we go to the TITANX dashboard, the community dashboard, this chart here is going to show us more than we could ever hope for when it comes to predicting. And if we were to do that, we would assume an average of the same payout or the same number of miners coming into the system over the next consecutive 6 days. But as you can see, this has been fluctuating a ton, right? We have all sorts of spikes and dips, and maybe the average over the past while has been somewhere in this range here, but there's no telling if that's going to remain. If this just drops off or skyrockets, one of the two, then that can change everything, right? And we have no idea what all of this Titan that is coming out in the next few days is really going to do for this system. Are they going to recycle? Are they going to go and start putting more money back into mining, which is going to push the payouts up? Are they going to stake for the payout? Are they just going to sell? We don't know. And this is the beauty about the system, is that there's so much to consider and so many different ways to play this. So you could do that, but I think the better way is to just, watch. Don't try and predict, because it's really doesn't. I don't want to say like it doesn't change much, and it's no point in predicting it. It's fun to predict. I get that. Like, I do that stuff all the time, but really, there's just nothing we can predict with that, because it's all based on user participation. There's not like a metric there that drives that. Let's see. Staking payouts will not be as long as the project is alive, but yes, returns. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Yeah, the big thing with Hyper is that people can set other stakes for Hyper. Imagine how much liquid supply there's going to be. Big love from Algeria. Welcome, man. Good to see you. I think you've been here for a while, Nassim. I think I've seen your name for a year or two now. So thank you for being here, man. It's good to see your name again. And Hyper question. If ETH price is at $2,500 and the cost of migrating to Hyper is 0.2 ETH and the price of Titan is 5 zeros and a 5, then your migration cost would be about 10% of your position. Very well could be, exactly. So you got to consider that the cost does not outweigh the benefit, right? So one of the things that I covered in my course, which is a little too much to cover here, is this whole framework of looking at this, which allows you to see basically all these different pieces and how to weigh them. So I hope to be releasing that course on my site soon, so that if you want to just get it, you can go and watch it. It's not going to be the live version, or it's going to be the live version that's just been pre-recorded, and there won't be the Q&As, but you get all the information that was in the course. So I'm only going to say that for a moment about that, but it is there and it will be there. So be on the lookout for that. 0.2 ETH to burn 1 billion TITANX, buy pressure for TITANX. Exactly, because every 0.2 ETH that gets used is being used to buy up the price of Titan first, Then it takes that Titan and it swaps it for Hyper. Now that doesn't push down the price of TITANX, and I can explain why later. But when it does that, it pushes up the price of Titan, which also pushes up the price of Hyper. And then when it swaps TITANX for Hyper, that pushes up the price of Hyper again. So there's a whole lot going on in the background. It's just crazy. So I'm going to keep going here because I want to just see what other comments you guys are having or other questions. Let's see here. Yeah, this is assuming that people are still mining after hyper launches, which I can almost guarantee you it will happen to a degree, but there is an assumption. There's always assumptions. You know, you have to make assumptions in order to have a framework for a specific scenario, but you have many assumptions and many different variations of how those assumptions will play out based on everything else. You know, you kind of need assumptions because you have to think about what might happen in the future to project what could come, right? So let's see. The one plus about being a pure stake tard is that you never technically burn away your TITANX. It's not sold for ETH in a compound, not for Hyper, and technically locked up for that time. Exactly. Pure staking is definitely a very healthy play. Like if you're able to acquire enough Titan where you can stake it and forget about it, and you're able to watch your ETH come in from the payouts at a rate that you're going to be very happy with, then staking is an awesome option. And we're going to talk a little bit about balance and how this system kind of gives you the opportunity to have a balanced portfolio, if you will, in a little bit. We'll get there. We'll save that for a little closer to the end of the stream. Let's see here. Titan. Now this is, I'm going to address this because this is just an interesting question. TITANX is its own animal. Hex is its own animal. And I mean, you've got, in terms of a system that is designed to leverage itself to bring more people in, which leverages its own price up and all sorts of stuff. TITANX was designed purely for that. So therefore, in that aspect, you could look at it as if in that one aspect alone to drive its own price up, you know, you do have hyperinflation to deal with and you have a whole lot of other things around it, but TITANX can be seen as, I can understand how people see TITANX as superior in that sense, but time will tell, right? Like the thing that we can never predict is adoption. And with something like Hex being out for so long and a guy like Richard Hart being as smart as he is and having so much that we don't even know what he's doing in the background, you know, you can't count out anything. And I think the beautiful thing about TITANX right now is that if you're getting into it, and yeah, like Jamie X says, TITANX is on another level. Like I think that TITANX cracked the code, really, so to speak, on a lot of fronts. You know, it just is such a cool product. And I will absolutely say that it's freaking awesome. But the one thing you can't predict is human behavior, and that's what drives the price, right? So to say that TITANX is built to perform better, I mean, you could argue that. I think it's just a weird conversation because crypto's wild, and I mean, anything can happen. And I think if you are weighing the two, like which one's better, if you're making gains in TITANX and you've got plenty, you know, maybe taking some and putting it into Hex, you know, if you believe that Hex still has the potential to do really, really well, or any of these other RH ecosystem coins, maybe you leverage one to get more of the other while still having majority position in the one you favor and balancing that out somehow. I mean, it's hard to compare the two. They're both just so different, you know? Bolt, stop it. You're too kind, man. Thank you. Thanks for the $20, bro. Appreciate you, dude. Everybody smash the like button. Thank you. Let's see. Is there a maximum number of TITANX that can be created? I love this question because we can go so deep, but I'll keep it really simple. The simple answer is no. And it is not that TITANX has a maximum number of TITANX that can be created, but it is extremely disinflationary. So I'll explain what that means. When something is inflationary, just goes up, right? Just keeps going. But if something is disinflationary, it has a period of high inflation and it slowly tapers off. So you can think about the amount of supply is doing this, going up and up and up and up and up. As time goes on, that supply coming into the market tapers off more and more and more. And so what we can actually do is I'm going to go to the documentation and I'll show you what it's like to see that curve in real life. So, or well, on paper. So you can visualize that and not just use my finger as a reference point. So if we go to the mining curve here, so see how it says 8 million at the top here, top left. As time goes on, even within 500 days, we basically we drop off like 80% of what you can mine in terms of TITANX. That doesn't account for the difficulty in ETH increasing for that same miner. So in over a year and a half, right, TITANX becomes extremely hard to mine. Right now, it's really easy. But it's going to become very hard to mine. And what is interesting too is that when these burn protocols come out, which are going to allow you to burn your TITANX to get in, you can burn staked or non-staked, or I'll refer to it as liquid. If you haven't heard that before, liquid is just non-staked TITANX. And so when you're mining right now, it's easy to get TITANX. But when you burn your TITANX for Hyper or anything, it's going to take you significantly more capital or money than you originally put in to acquire the same amount of TITANX that you originally had for mining. Like, yes, that doesn't mean when you burn for Hyper, you're not going to get your TITANX back, right? Like, if there's an arbitrage opportunity or there's an incentive to make a profit from Hyper and you want to come back into Titan, you're going to end up with more TITANX. But to mine it is going to take you so much more capital, so much more money to make that same amount of TITANX. And so it becomes so difficult for that amount of TITANX that we're so used to seeing right now to come into supply. And that just gets harder and harder and harder all the way until we essentially get only 800 TITANX per day of mining for a max length miner. That's crazy. We go, basically, it's 1,000x decrease plus the early adoption amplifier, which is 10%. So really, it's an 11,000x increase in difficulty of acquiring TITANX. Or you could think about the TITANX coming into supply reduces by 11,000x over the course of 2,000 days. So yes, there is no cap, but yes, it doesn't need one because the amount of supply that's going to be burned when stuff is being built on here is going to be nuts. And as we already saw, this 56% of the supply, 57% of the supply is already burnt in 50 days. Like, it's crazy. So let's keep going here. I'm going to just look for your guys' questions. And I'm also going to keep in mind I have a few other things I want to talk about here. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and then I want to get to day 56 because that's an important one. And I want you guys to really understand this and the surrounding possibilities of what you could do during that and what might happen. So Volt, another question, man. Thank you, dude. Hyper question. If ETH price is, I think you asked this. I think I answered this. I swear I answered it. Say you have 50 billion TITANX. Cost for you to move over to 10 ETH, 0.2 per billion. Do you have to have 10 ETH to move to Hyper, or can you use your stake equivalent to migrate over? As far as we know, it's just 0.2 per billion. We don't have any documentation at this point, so you know as well as I do. This is a great question, and we just literally have to wait. So, yeah. Let's see here. Let's see if there's a couple more questions. 10x. Yeah, like there you go. I'm in TITANX to get back what I put in the hex while still keeping my hex for long game. There's so many ways to play this, guys. If you like TITANX, cool. Use it to do the other things as well. Like use it to build your bag of hex or PulseX or Pulse or whatever, or build your bag of TITANX or whatever. But like you don't have to think about this as like you're all in TITANX and all in nothing. It's like that's the weird way to approach life. You know, like be excited and be passionate and be into learning about this and maximizing it, but don't be so stuck that you turn a blind eye to everything else around you as well. It's important to open up your perspective and maintain awareness of just everything that's going on, because we ultimately don't know for sure if any of these things will go blasting off. It could be all of them. It could be one of them. It could be a couple of them. It could be none of them. We actually have no idea what's coming in the future. So it's important, I think, to consider, having a wider balanced approach instead of just all in one. Doesn't matter if it's only hex. Doesn't matter if it's only pulse hex, in my opinion. I think having a wider balance, even if it's only a few things, right? I think this is important. So thank you for this comment. Let's see here. Tank, let's say TITANX is a 15,000X, nice, and drops only 70% in the bear. I would consider it better for the first full cycle. So, I mean, well, yeah, dude, that's like still like 3,000, like 3,500X basically, 3,000X from now, which is fine with me. It might not be for you, but it's fine with me, which is bullish. Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but we're not there yet. We'll see. Who knows? So let's see. Ramen says, I think Hyper will be totally an independent project with fixed supply and its own LP and trading chart. People will buy from the market using TITANX native token. Unfortunately, though, that actually isn't an accurate statement, and we know very well what Hyper is going to be on a lot of fronts, and it's not going to be independent. It's going to be built on top of TITANX. It's going to require TITANX to be burnt to create Hyper at a 1-to-1 ratio. So Hyper will be minted 1-to-1 relative to what is burned into Hyper. And it will have a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, as the buy and burn works and as staking rewards come in for people who stake longer. But we know for a fact Hyper is being built on top of TITANX to burn TITANX. It is not independent. So let's see. So if I stake today, for example, 1 billion, my payout will be the same if I stake after a month. Nope, because the staking pool is going to grow and contract and grow and contract as people, if their stakes end, or people, probably more likely it'll expand in terms of it'll get diluted. It's not a guarantee, but it's most likely at this point because Hyper's coming and there's more big payouts that are coming. So you really have to consider that you're probably going to get a little bit diluted, but we don't know how much. And it depends on how much supply is coming out relative, and well, how much supply is coming out and how much of that supply gets staked, which we can't predict the second part. So you can try and predict the best. If you really want to try and predict, you have to predict from the day before for that payout, but you can't predict in the future. We just don't know fully. That tool that we have is the staking calculator is only good for as of today, which we're not at the 8-day or the 28-day payout yet. So this just shows you as of today, but this is always going to change because the amount of ETH is going up and the amount of people joining the pool to get that ETH is also going up. So unpredictable. There's no way to know that. All right, let's see here. Thanks, Hawkgirl. Thank you. Let's see. What's up, AJ? Good to see you in here, man. It's been a minute. Yin and yang, yes. Jake said a benevolent entity will pretty much always make sure there'll be an arbitrage opportunities for Hyper, insanely bullish for TITANX because it gets bought and burned. Well, I think I've heard that comment. I'm going to say I will believe it when I see it. I'm not going to count on anything. If you actually look at the design of Hyper, you'll see that Hyper is designed pretty well from what we even know right now. And the arbitrage is going to be opening on its own due to the buy and burn. So if there's a benevolent actor, hey, cool by me. I'm not going to complain, but I'm not going to expect it. I'll believe it when I see it. It's kind of my favorite catchphrase now. When predicting all these things when it comes to like the staking pool or mining and all these things that we can see big numbers with as of the day we're doing these numbers, it's so easy to get caught up, but I'll believe it when I see it. I hope it happens, sure, but I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I think I answered this question. Do you have 10? Yeah, basically at this point, you have to have 10 ETH to move into that or burn your 50 billion. Well, no, it'd be, 50 times. Yeah, so 10 ETH basically to burn your 50 billion TITANX. But that's at this point. When the documentation comes out, it could be different. It could be scalable on a different degree than just 1 billion per 0.2 ETH. Don't know yet, but we'll see. We will see. Let's see. Yeah, so, okay, great question, Ben. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to pause here, and I want to talk about quickly the day 56 payout, because I've been seeing a lot of people asking about this payout, and I want to make sure that if it's something you want to participate in, you know everything about it, and you can actually make the right choice and take advantage of it, depending on how it is going to work for you. So what's really cool is if you just come down from the payouts chart and you just scroll down a teeny tiny bit, you go to the 8-day and the 28-day, you're going to see the countdown on both of these. Now we're going to ignore the payout amounts because it's not what we're focused on right now, but I want you to look at the next payout date. And for the 8-day, it says 56. For the 28-day, it says 56. That means on day 56, both these payout cycles are going to pay out at the same time. So this means that 3 million essentially at this point, with 6 days to go, and 240,000 with 6 days to go, which will probably build, is going to pay out on the same day, which is pretty cool. That's going to be a big payout. And this isn't just unique to day 56. This is unique to every 56 days. So day 56, day 112, day 168, and so on, which is I think 100 or 224, I think after that. But these are all the days. Now I say day, I mean day 56, 112, 168, 224, all in Titan, right? So this day is going to pay out on December 22nd. So you're going to want to make sure that you are staked before then. You want to be staked on December 21st. And I believe on Pacific time, you're going to want to make sure that it's like around 11:30 or 11:15 p.m. that this all ticks over. So you got to make sure that you're staked if you're going to participate in this on day 55 and not day 56. If you stake on day 56, you're not getting the payout. You've unfortunately missed it, and you're locked in for as long as you want it, as long as you staked for it. So now the thing that you're going to see here as well is if we go to the calculator and we type in, again, our billion, right? We're going to see $2,300 with 6 days to go in the building of the 28-day and $200 for the 8-day, which that's pretty cool. You know, that's almost 50% ROI in a couple days, or well, in a moment, right? But the catch here is that in order to do this and get those payouts, you will have to stake for 3,500 days or 2,888 days, which is the max bonus shares you get in the system. So when it comes to staking, to get these numbers, you basically have to commit to burning for Hyper, burning for another protocol, or holding for as long as it makes sense up to this date. Now, of course, if you're staking this long, you know Hyper's coming out. You know there's a few other protocols coming out. And because of that, you know there's going to be a way to get out. But you have to stake this long if you want these payouts. Now, let's see. If we just delete an 8 off here, so 288 days, the payout shrinks. Again, look at the numbers here. So 195 and 2332, delete an 8, and now we only get $750, $760. So the actual staking rewards are very dependent on how long you're staking for. If you're staking for 365, you're only going to get $800 as of right now. It might go up, might go down, because there's dilution and there's more ETH coming in for miners. But it's important that you understand that if you're staking a billion TITANX worth $6 grand and you're only staking for a short period, well, it's not really, you're not getting a whole lot, you know? So you really want to think about, okay, well, what do I need to do? Like, where are prices at? What is my payout going to be? What is basically the context of the situation right now? And how much am I going to get if I stake, right? Like, if you do this, you have the opportunity then to take 50% of your value, let's say, basically 50% of the value that you put in, and roll that into miners. You don't have to sell the price. And what you could continuously do with this as an idea is just continuously roll these miners that end in your staking pool to get more ETH, to get more TITANX, which gets you more ETH, which gets you more TITANX. And then eventually, if you want to burn, you just burn. And this is one way to look at this. Now, a more balanced approach might be to have, you know, a percentage of your miners going to the staking pool and a percentage of them going into maybe remining, and a percentage of your staking pool going into that remines goes into the staking pool and remining again, and having more of a balance, because the one thing that is important to understand here that I did want to get into anyways, is perfect transition, is that when the price of TITANX is up, doing this whole recycling thing that people are talking about and everyone's doing is very lucrative, right? You can make solid gains by doing that. The ROI is high. But what happens is when the prices go down, profitability also goes down. And sometimes if it goes low enough, which who knows, but if it goes low enough, there might not be any profitability. And at that point though, this is when it pays to have the staking pool active for you, because when the prices are down and profitability is not there, and you don't want to do this rolling compounding thing that we're alluding to, well, you can extract ETH from your stake to start more miners to make up for the fact that those miners weren't profitable. And you could even stake some of that that's not profitable, or all of it, depending on how you want to do it, because there's a million billion different ways to go about this. Is you stake some of that to leverage getting more ETH, start more miners, so that way you're still ahead. And it's like a seesaw, right? When prices are low, staking is a great tool because it gives you ETH when your miners are down. And mining is great because the staking pool doesn't really leverage the value of your TITANX. It only leverages the number of TITANX that you have, right? So I hope this is planting some seed for you and making you understand that there's a lot to this if you want a balanced approach to TITANX. And I've been going on a monologue, so I am going to pause and check in with you guys because there's a lot of comments that I'm seeing. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, there's just so many ways to strategize in TITANX, and it's definitely made crypto fun again. You know, like there's a reason I'm streaming again because there's so much to talk about. I'm actually like excited, like I'm building stuff and I'm building models and I'm writing. I've got a course that I did, and you know, there's just so much to talk about with TITANX, and there's so much we're discovering. So it's such a big, it's such a discovery phase in general that, you know, it has just been a blast to, and I'm thankful it's come along, because crypto for a while there was pretty rough, and I'm sure as many of you were, you know, sticking through it, and it is what it is, but like, man, it's been a nice change. So I am very stoked that TITANX, and thankful that TITANX is out. So now that we've done that, I'm going to pause for a second. Do you guys have any questions about the staking pool, day 56? Is that all making sense to you guys? I want to make sure that you're leaving here with an understanding of how, why, and what to do about it. So, hey, Mackenzie, good to see you. What's up, amigo? You've been killing it with the TITANX content on Twitter too. I love how public you are about stuff, and shout out to you for always just like going your own direction and being like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm posting about this. This is my strategy. I love it. I respect that. That's awesome. Yeah, guys, press the like. Press it. Let's see here. Yeah, so I've been here. Okay, so yeah, so today's stream with Jake and Kindness. I just started watching that. I was super busy today, so I didn't get a chance to tune into that, but that is on my list tonight of what I'm going to watch, because apparently I'm seeing some talk about Genesis. And before, I'm not going to comment on Genesis yet. I want to watch that stream, because I know you could go look at Genesis right now, and there's a lot of TITANX in there. I have my own thoughts about why that is, but I'm going to go and watch this tonight. I recommend everyone go and do that as well. Go check out the TITANX and or TITANX stream with Crypto Kindness and Jake, the founder of TITANX. But yeah, I won't talk about Genesis until then, and I might stream again tomorrow, so we'll see. I'm not 100% sure on that yet, but either way, we'll be talking about that very soon. Let's see here. All right. Okay, if you were starting today with TITANX, what would your strategy, knowing what you know? This is such a good question. Right now, I mean, you have I would be probably starting with a balanced approach. I would still be focused on probably, I think even now, the thing is like there's a lot of supply coming up. So if you're trying to compound, then you are running the risk of prices going to where we haven't seen in a little while. Like if I share you the DEX screener chart here, prices are holding on, which is great. We don't know if they come down here. You run the risk of basically not being profitable in your miners. Now, I'm not 100% convinced yet that, like, if you mine now for a shorter period, even 20, 15, 20, 30, 15 is risky. Don't 20, 30, 40 days. I do see them still being most likely profitable with like the T rank bonuses and stuff. But essentially, my strategy, and I guess this is my current strategy right now, is to compound and to drip into the staking pool to slowly build that, to leverage times when prices are high and leverage times when prices are low, to basically generate a position to be able to take advantage of hyper. And there's just so many ways that you can approach this, but I guess my overarching theme is to prepare for hyper and to just have the largest bag of TITANX and ETH and all that I can, so that way when when hyper comes out, I can take advantage of it the best possible, right? Or to the largest degree possible. And look, when I'm saying this too, that there are so many ways to do this and I'm human. I see only what's in my awareness and my perspective. And I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly trying to get better, but there's always something we're missing. And I'm sure that's what it is for me too, and I'm definitely going to say that if that is the case, which I believe it is, what I want to take on is a balanced, adaptive, and flexible approach. So if I think that way is the way right now, I'm going to go that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be constantly watching as I'm walking that direction and saying, okay, how are things measuring up? What's happening around me? And if something changes that implies a need for a different direction or a deviation from that, then you need to apply that. You can't be ignorant of what's happening within the system. Strategies are only relevant based on the context, right? If the context changes, if the system changes, then our strategy has to adapt with it. So that's kind of the best way I could put it. Is my strategy is a balanced approach plus flexibility and adaptation, and just really trying to grow as quickly as possible for hyper and take it from there, because I'm not sure, and I don't think anyone has an idea what's going to happen when hyper comes out, really, in terms of the implications of how it's actually going to impact the system. Like, we know hyper is going to be important. We know these other protocols are going to be important, but what we don't know is, what does that mean? Like, what is going to happen when we're talking about this importance, right? We don't know, so we just got to wait and find out. All right. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that. That was a great question, actually. Yeah, a balanced strategy is definitely the way to go. Like, in the early days, yeah, compounding was like the way, but even just with how quickly mining rewards have decreased, like if you want to do, let me just share this tab here. Let's go back to the mining page. Even if you want to do, let's say you want to do 10 miners, well, let's just do one miner for 20 days. Now, this originally was significantly more, and it was only less than 400 bucks. So for 20 days for a single miner, like, the amount of TITANX you're getting is severely low, comparatively speaking, to just 50 days ago. So in the beginning, compounding probably would have been like the way, because it was so profitable. There's so much everything, right? But you just have to keep in mind that now things have evolved and there's more value coming in the system. There's more participants. The price is like the price floors of all these different miners, which if you're creating a miner, you have a break-even price. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But all this needs to be considered when you're creating these miners. And right now, balancing mining with, and I would actually recommend too, for most people considering, like, compounding is like a risky strategy, right? Because if it goes against you, you're in the water. Like, really, if you're doing a 20-day miner right now, and you're doing it for just one or any amount of miners, this means the price basically can fall like 45% essentially, and you're at break even. That's it. Your break even price is halfway or half of this essentially. It's a little bit more than that, actually. So you're only basically able to survive a 40-45% drop before this miner's underwater. Doesn't include T rank, which is significant actually right now, but still, it's important to understand that, because It's very easy for the price to just go when a big participant decides they want to take some profit, and now your compounding strategy is underwater, and you either have to wait or stake, right? So having not just 20-day miners, but possibly longer, 30, 40, 50, 60, and even some longer ones. I mean, like if you're going 280 days out now, you're going to be getting into, I think, around October, maybe even November by now. And with that big supply shock coming in August, there's a chance that if there's a big 80, 90% drop in a day in price, that the price recovers by then. Don't know. I don't have a clue. But speculatively speaking, that could be a safe bet. And the longer miners are always going to pay better in terms of economic energy put in over time. It's just the way it is. Compounding is a strategy because you can leverage shorter periods and higher prices to basically take advantage of that and go faster to those amounts of TITANX. But taking all these pieces and combining them into one is, in my opinion, the way to go, right? It may even be wise to have TITANX liquid for certain strategies, which maybe I'll talk about at some point, but coming soon. Hope that made sense. Let's see here. Let's see, graphics. Do you have any T-rank bonus thoughts and what it might look like for payouts? Can you be more specific for that in terms of what you mean for the payouts? Because reading your question, the T-rank is not connected to the payouts, right? Like the payouts is in the staking pool. The T-rank is in the mining side of the things, where you're getting T-rank bonus, which is basically TITANX bonus for every miner that comes in after you. So if you could clarify what you mean by that, I'll answer that as best I can. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really enjoy these streams. TITANX just has so much to talk about. Like, we could literally sit here. We could be here for hours talking about this stuff. I have so much I've personally written. Like, the amount of stuff I wrote for the course alone is like a 100-page document. And like, we could go through that, but I'm not going to because, it's just too much. But there's just so much to talk about Titan. So I can appreciate just Titan in general for giving us the ability to talk about this and have this kind of stream. Paul Stravator says, do you think that after a year, mining won't be viable and staking won't be as profitable? Do you think noobs might not see the same benefit as early starters and things could drop away rapidly? That's a good question. I mean, people who are early typically do the best, right? The later you adopt, typically the less gains you see, depending on timing, right? Because what we could say now is people that got in at the top of Hex, were earlier than people who are maybe getting in now to something like Hex. But because we're much closer to the bull run and maybe a rise in price, you could say that those people that did get in later are actually going to have an advantage in performance, right? Like they're probably going to do better than the people that got in at the top. It's just easy. It takes thousands of dollars at the top to keep up with 50, 60, $100 now with what you can get, right? So it's not black and white, like later equals worse and earlier equals better. But yes, typically like earlier is going to pay a little bit better. So there's going to be ebbs and flows, and there's going to be redistribution. Like this whole phase that we're in now is technically a token distribution phase, right? Because you have people that are mining it and they're selling it or they're staking it and they're doing all sorts of things, and people are able to buy it, right? So this whole period where Titan is highly inflationary is a distribution phase. And at some point, we may go up and then we might see a massive sell-off, kind of like everything does when it gets to a certain point where it's just like there's too many people with too much profit. And then it will come down, and there's always going to be people that buy the top, but there are going to be people that are going to get in near the bottom. And there's also going to be, because there's burning protocols, because there's all sorts of stuff, we don't know what's going to happen with the price of ETH. Like that's a big thing. Like think about this for a second here. If we go to the payouts, right? Let's say ETH doesn't go up as quick as we thought, but let's say a year from now, ETH decides to stay from at around 2K, and right around the 369-day payout, ETH goes up 5x. This payout pool is massive. The payout cycle is massive. The pool's shrunk because there's really not that many people in it anymore because everyone's burned it for hyper or whatever, right? There may be opportunities that come that are significant still And yes, in terms of mining TITANX, it's going to be harder, you know, but there's always benefits if you know where to look and you can have the foresight to see in the future of how that might happen. So hope that answers that. I know it's like it's impossible to answer yes or no. It's not black and white at all. So I apologize for my vagueness, but that's all I've got on that front, really. Let's see. Okay, ending miners. Okay, so let's see. Do you have any T rank bonus thoughts on what it might look like for ending miners? What I'm seeing right now is anywhere from 60 all the way to over 100% in additional T rank bonus, which is crazy. And that's just been over the past 20 days or so, right? That's going to change. But if adoption stays on average around the same, T rank bonuses are significant, because if we also go back to the mining page, remember we were talking about how miners have a price floor, right? Your break even price. If you want to do 280 days, or you want to do 20 days, because we know that, let's do 21 just to make it 100%. 22. Okay, we'll call it there. So 22 days is 100% ROI. Well, that works because if you divide your cost by the amount of TITANX you're going to get from that miner, you're going to get your ROI, or you're going to get your break-even price. Now, in this case, the break-even price is 5 zeros and a 3, and our market price is 5 zeros and a 6. And because of that, this means that we're 100% up if the market price stays the same by the time your miner ends. Now, what this doesn't account for, though, is the T rank bonus. And if we account for, let's say we're going to be super optimistic, unreasonably optimistic, and we're going to say we expect 100% bonus from T rank. Well, what that means is that we're going to see our price floor reduced by half again. So instead of being 3,000, or basically 5 zeros and a 3, it should be around 5 zeros and a 1, 5, which means our profitability doubles if the market price stays here. But it also gives us a buffer, so that way if the price drops, we're still likely to be in profit when the price drops, right? So we can go all the way to like 5 zeros and a 1, 5 or something like that is our profitability, right? So I hope that makes sense. But the T rank is significant to consider, but can't be predicted perfectly, you know? Okay. So 2 years down the line, what is the incentive for new money to come into the project? Isn't it? It's an interesting question, because I think it's an important question, but I don't think we can look too much into it. We can't. Okay, well, I'll answer it first, because there's a lot to this question, I think, more than just the question itself. When you are thinking 2 years down the line, if you're looking at TITANX only right now in 2 years, well, that isn't really looking at the whole picture. Let's ask the question, okay, well, why does TITANX exist? Does TITANX exist just for up and to the right? Or was it designed to be a system that could be built on? And if that's the case, which it is, then the incentive to come into Titan will be to get into other projects. Because most other projects are going to have a burn function or feature like Hyper is going to have, where in order to get into the protocol without buying it on the market, you're going to need to burn TITANX. And so you're going to have to either mine or buy. And so the incentive is going to change, but it's going to still be there, because think about it like this. Right now, the demand for TITANX is in 2, and I'll call it half places: mining, staking, and then the half is Hyper, because Hyper is coming and it's like people are kind of planning for it, but I don't think it's been like priced in yet, right? So those are the 3 main incentives right now, I would say. Maybe I'm missing 1 or 2, but those, and obviously the payouts, right? Because we're staking. So if you are thinking though the future, then you have, okay, you have the mining to get TITANX, you have staking in TITANX, which who knows how that's going to be. You then will have Hyper, you'll have staking in Hyper, you'll have any other protocols and what they might bring, right? Like, there's so much that's coming potentially. Obviously, it's not here yet, but down the line, that if we just look at TITANX, we're not looking far enough into it to figure out what actually is going to bring it value. Because TITANX alone, over the course of a couple of years, I mean, if it was just TITANX, we might see like a single cycle way up and then come down, and everyone kind of similar to Hex, where we're like, oh, what's going to happen here, right? But as more gets built on it, you're basically creating a giant that's built on the back of a giant, which is ETH, right? You're already leveraging the value of ETH, and then in order to get this other thing, you have to get the thing that's built on ETH, right? That's going to take you ETH to buy. So you got to buy ETH to mine Titan to burn for this thing, right? Or you can buy it on the market, but chances are you're probably going to get more TITANX mining than you are on the market. So I think then, to summarize, the incentive for new money to come into the project in 2 years will be obvious. It'll be like there's things built on it, and you'll need Titan to participate in those, to put it simply. Let's see here. Let's see. Graphics had a few day one miners at over 200 days with over 400 million T rank. Just curious what your thoughts might be about the bonus. I'm pretty giddy about it. Well, I mean, okay, when I say 100%, I'm talking for shorter miners. I can't predict the long ones because that's all based on adoption. If you've got that already, my dude, then you're gonna be, well, you could think about quadrupling that, I guess, because we're 50 days in, and then you just multiply by 4. That could be a way of estimating that. So like 1.6 billion T rank. But the thing is, like, I wouldn't even do that because it's going to be wrong. Either it's going to be a little short or a little more. So you really just want to watch it. I mean, yeah, dude, just be patient, watch it. You're going to love it. I think the T rank's going to treat you well, especially because you're on day one. Like, it's sick, dude. Very sick. Mega Brain Game Theory. Thanks, man. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. I'm trying to drop some gems for you. There's a lot to this stuff. Like, I recorded a video, but I don't even know if I'm gonna release it because it's so short. And it's just saying like, this is how simple TITANX is, but it's also hard because TITANX is so simple. But then when you come to strategizing and actually making the most of it, there's like a lot to it. As you can see, we're an hour and 7 minutes in, and we haven't really even gone deep, in my opinion, yet. We're still surface level stuff here. So Shaquille Young asks, so you're saying that if ETH goes up in price, miners will increase if the miner ends and we get our ETH payout. So I don't fully understand word for word what you're saying, but I think I know what you're implying. So correct me if I'm wrong here. And if I got the interpretation of this wrong, please drop another comment and I'll answer that. If ETH goes up in price, the miners will not necessarily increase, but the miners will increase in cost, right? Because if we're looking at the price here, 465, that's based on the ETH price of just over 2 grand, so 2,200 to 2,300 bucks, whatever it is right now. If the price goes to 5 grand, well, for one miner today, it's going to be $1,000 for one miner. And that's as of today. And the difficulty is always going up. Eventually, in 2,000 days, for one miner, regardless of how long it is, it's going to cost you 1 whole ETH. And in that time, in 2,000 days, TITANX is going to go down in terms of what you can, or the difficulty is going to increase. So you'll be able to get 11,000x less than you could day one TITANX for 1 ETH. That's 55,000x increase without taking into consideration what the price of ETH is at that time. If ETH goes up 2x, you double that. If ETH goes up 3x, you triple that. But that's not price performance. That's just difficulty, right? The price that's difficulty within the system. You have no idea what the market price is going to reflect in terms of how it's going to work. That's just how the math works out in the system over time, which doesn't include the share rate and doesn't include the 3.5x difficulty and share rate that goes up over the course of, I think it's 4,180 days or 4,176 days or something like that. So there's a lot to consider with miners. So sooner you're getting in, if you're looking at this and you're thinking this is something that you want to participate in, sooner is better for mining, for sure. Like, there's no doubt about it. Undercover Doc, welcome. Staking going to be huge with the 56-day payout. Absolutely. I highly recommend everyone consider and don't just write it off. Maybe you don't stake. Maybe you don't need to. Maybe you've got another plan. But I highly recommend considering doing it, just because every 56 days are going to be very juicy payouts. So you don't want to turn a blind eye to that one. Yeah, I can't believe people are selling right now. 50% ROI just on day 56, staking by itself, plus all the future payouts. Over 100% on day 90 of staking. Exactly. In 36 days, or in 34 days, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 8-day payouts. You're going to get one 1 or 2 28-day payouts. You get 2 28-day payouts, I believe. And then you're also going to get a 90-day stake cycle payout. So let me just reiterate this. You're going to get, where is it here? Calculator. When you are staking TITANX, you're going to get 4 8-day payouts, 2 28-day payouts, and 1 90-day payout within the next 40 days, once this 56-day payout comes. So that's crazy. Like for $6,000, like we don't know what the 8-day payout's going to be for the next one. We don't know what the 8-day payout's going to be for the one after that, or the one after that, or that. There's 4 of them, and we don't know what's going to happen with the 28-day payout for the second one. So really, in 40 days, you could, or 34 days, you could see the entire balance of your TITANX in value given back to you in ETH. Could be more, could be a little less. But as of right now, and that is always subject to change, so you have to keep that in mind. Don't act on strictly today's numbers. Consider what might happen in the future as well. But that's so important to know. So important to know. So thanks for the comment. Great comment. Let's see here. On the kind of stream today, it seemed like Jake was alluding to a hyper launch closer to the halving. That could be interesting. That could be very interesting if we're going all the way, if we're going that far. So we'll see. But yeah, he did say it'll be. He did say like 90 to 150, I think, in terms of days in TITANX. So we'll see. I'm not 100% sure. No one knows really. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Yeah, 228 sounds good. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be. I'm actually trying to be reasonable and trying to be balanced at all times. But I just try to like lay everything out, you know. And I want you guys to understand just how much there is here to consider. Frosty Dog, what's up, man? Good to see you in here. Yo, buddy. Base clips. Let's get deep. Oh man, I don't know if we have time for the depth today. What else do I have on my agenda here? Well, wanted to talk about hyper, and I think let's go and talk about hyper right now. I'm going to, I'll give you, you know what? I'm gonna open something, and I'm gonna give you guys a little sneak peek at the course that will help you understand hyper. So, we'll do a little sneak peek here. Give me a sec while I do all this, and I think I'm going to go to, so I'm going to give you a couple different pieces here. So I'm going to share this tab, and how do I go full screen on this real quick before I do this? Got it. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to figure out how to do the full screen on this. Oh, slideshow. Okay, cool. Let me just check real quick so you guys can see this. Cool. Okay, so we're going to view slideshow. Okay, so this is how hyper is going to work. Okay, hyper is an opportunity for you and I to take advantage of what's called arbitrage. Now, without talking about the hearsay and all that of what Genesis might do, we're just going to stick to how hyper works. So when you want to take advantage of hyper launches, you have TITANX tokens. Now you'll be able to have those liquid or staked. Then you're going to be able to, when hyper launches, burn those tokens for hyper. Okay. Now, in the case where hyper goes really, really, really well, and there's a whole lot of arbitrage and a whole lot of participation that ends up pushing up the price, which I will talk about in a moment, you could see the value of your tokens doubled, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. We don't know yet, right? But when your hyper expires from that minimum 8-day stake, you're going to get hyper tokens that are worth more than what your TITANX tokens were. Now, arbitrage only is ever actually realized when you go from the thing of higher value over here back to the thing of lower value. So you basically can double your position and you can continue that cycle. It's a cycle. Arbitrage is a cycle until that level meets in the middle again, right? So hyper brings that, and that's the main incentive to burn your TITANX is profitability. 8 days to a 10%, 50%, 100% increase depending on participation. So now how this is all going to work, because like we talked about, when you burn tokens for hyper, you are effectively giving you have to pay 0.2 ETH for every single billion that you burn. When you do that, that 0.2 ETH goes into the buy and burn, buys TITANX off the market, and pushes up the price of TITANX. Then that TITANX is taken and is bought for hyper and burned. And what's really important to understand about here, and I'm going to see if I'm going to bring, so it's important to understand how this all works. So ETH mainly gets its price from obviously BTC and other millions of dollars in liquidity, right? It's got liquidity everywhere. So TITANX being placed on ETH and built on it, and its main liquidity pool being tied to ETH, TITANX going up and down does not affect the price of ETH. But the opposite is true. If ETH goes up, TITANX will increase in value. Or it will drag TITANX up. If ETH goes down in value, TITANX will decrease and be dragged down with it, right? It's intimately tied to the price of ETH. Now, this same principle is exactly what happens with hyper to Titan. But it's funny because ETH affects the price of TITANX and hyper. Hyper does not affect the price of TITANX or ETH, but TITANX affects the price of hyper. So what I'm saying here, very simply, is that when ETH is used for the burn, to burn 1 billion tokens, it's going to burn TITANX, which is going to buy TITANX using that ETH off the market. And then it's going to go, because it's pushing up both TITANX and hyper in value, right? Because the price of hyper also is based off the price of Titan. So if Titan goes up in value, it drags TITANX up, right? Similar to ETH and TITANX. ETH goes up, TITANX goes up, ETH goes down, TITANX goes down. It's the same principle for TITANX to hyper, because hyper is built on Titan. So when Titan goes up in value from this buy and burn, it pushes up hyper in price. But then it takes that TITANX and it swaps it for hyper, which does not affect the price of TITANX, but it does increase the value of hyper. So they're level, and then as soon as that buy and burn happens, or the buy and burn going all the way to hyper, it pushes up hyper relative to TITANX. That's where the arbitrage comes from. And there's also buy and burn from LP fees. There's an 8% builder fee that goes, well, it's called a builder fee, but 8% of the TITANX also that you burn goes to being to buying up hyper and then burning as well. So you've got 8% of 1 billion, which is like 80 million. So 80 million per billion is swapped for hyper and then burnt. So that's pushing up the arbitrage. And you have LP fees. So anything earned from this liquidity pool that's going to be created is going to be swapped into hyper, right? All TITANX is going to be swapped into hyper and then burned, which also furthers that arbitrage as well. So I hope this is making sense. Let me just check in real quick and see if you guys are getting this. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anyone say anything that's like, I don't understand what the hell you're saying. So I'm going to keep going because it sounds like you guys are loving it, Johnny boy. And also, yeah, let's keep going here. So, okay. If you go to the buy and burn example, this is just a quick walkthrough of it. So 0.2 ETH cost to burn TITANX for hyper. ETH is swapped for TITANX, pushing TITANX and the price of hyper up. And then that TITANX is swapped for hyper, which does not affect the price of TITANX or ETH, but pushes the price of hyper up further. And this is where that arbitrage is going to happen. Something that's interesting to consider here is over 8 days, this whole system, so everyone that wants to burn for hyper has to wait 8 days. This means for 8 days, that arbitrage is going to be going up, 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 and ticking away. We don't know how much is going to affect it because we don't know what liquidity is going to look like. We don't know how much participation we're going to see. But if there's a lot of participation, that arbitrage could go way up there. Could be 50%, could be 100%, we don't know. But it's important to understand this so then you can use this to be, okay, there's a potential framework I can use here for my own participation. So I think I already did this one. Yeah, so again, One more time, the arbitrage flowchart. You start with TITANX tokens, either liquid or staked. You burn them for hyper. You get the value of the original tokens in arbitrage. So it's increased value from hyper when you get your hyper tokens out in 8 days. And then you sell those hyper tokens back for TITANX to basically realize your profit. And this is the arbitrage cycle, but maybe you want to stake for longer. Maybe you want to, you have other plans. I don't know. Like this is just the arbitrage cycle, but there's a million different ways that you could do this. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed that little clip of the course, and I hope that made great sense. That's from module 1, and that there's like 90 some slides in module 1 alone to go with the massive amount of documentation I have on it as well, including, because Miguel here is asking, so all of you really trust Jake. I have an entire section in the course around Jake, around the contracts, around the audits, around everything. And I give you my thoughts, and it's all in the course. And I'm as neutral as possible. I give you everything. I don't hide anything. So I would highly recommend you check out the course when it comes out soon. But anyways, enough of the course. I'm here for you guys, just so you guys know that's there. But what I'll comment on this is, look, you can trust someone in the same way that we trust, or that when I say we, I wasn't there in the beginning of Hex. I'm not gonna say we, but those who got into Hex in the beginning, and I can speak for myself when I got in originally, I mean, nobody really knows, and no one can confirm. It's just one of those moot points where it's like, why speculate on who owns the OA? You could say it's Richard, you could say it's not. They're all wrong because nobody knows, right? But in the beginning, especially the beginning, there was a lot of, well, we call it FUD, of course, but there's a lot of people that were concerned about Richard going and dumping the price, or that it was a scam, and where is all this stuff coming from? And over time, we've learned that Richard has been true to his word, and there's been trust built, in terms of the fact that we're not trusting him anymore necessarily. We are, because we know that what he's building and is reputable, it's well built, but this is a time aspect, right? If Richard had come out and said, I'm building Hex, and then as soon as it's done, I'm building Pulse Chain and then PulseX, well, if he did that all within 33 days, when the Hex price chart was going down and nobody knew anything about it, no one had figured out that he was trustworthy, well, may not have actually gotten the adoption that he wanted, right? But this is the same for this. Like, yes, it's always healthy to be skeptical. Healthy skepticism is perfect. I think you need it. But what I will say is you need to not favor the skepticism and always be like, oh, I don't know, man. You need to be equally as, I don't know, as maybe it is. And what I mean by that is you need to look at it as maybe there's something here. And I need to be open to looking for it and seeing it. But I also need to be completely open to the fact this might actually be something that's freaking awesome, And that, in terms of thinking about Jake, really comes down to watching and seeing the behavior. And while depending on how you view what's happened in the ecosystem and stuff that's been floating around about him and his mastermind and stuff, it's like, dude, he's an entrepreneur, he's a salesman, he's hungry, he's like 25, 26 years old, I'm pretty sure. Like, the dude's hungry, right? And so if you don't like sales and you don't like someone that maybe makes a couple of choices that's like, not like perfect per se in terms of the optics of them, fair enough. But if you're willing to see past that, and if you're willing to give it a chance to show his actions now for this thing he's built, that's all what we can do. Like, why Jake hasn't done anything that is not trustworthy. Like, if anything, he has protected his name, right? Like, we know that he's protected his name, fair enough, dude. But he's showing his face publicly. And I'm sure that if he was going to scam people, that's the least, that's the thing you don't want to do, show your face, because you can be tracked down, especially right now with multiple tens of $1 million flowing through his ecosystem. Like, you're going to be looking over your shoulder the rest of your life. That's a tough life to live. I don't think most people default to like wanting to scam people. I think that's a certain type of person, but at this point, there are no reasons I see why we shouldn't trust Jake. That is completely subject to change. But as of right now, there's no point not trusting them. You know, there really isn't. So hope that answered your question. And you just need, like AJ, great comment. Do the research, get educated, make a decision. There are plenty of people I do trust who are invested in TITANX. Exactly. And that's another thing. Like there's a ton of people. If you go and look at how many people right now that were in the Pulse Chain ecosystem that are talking about Titan, that are applauding Jake for what he's built, that are participating in it, it's growing so fast. And it's because what he's built is undeniably good. It is what it is. You can't fade what he's built. Like, no, please don't. And Steve, we trust. No, in your own research, we trust, please. Oh, no. But do the research, get educated, and good to see you, Pete. Thanks for being here, man. Make a decision. There are plenty of people who I do trust that are invested in Titan. Like, if you look at the social proof, there's a lot of people who know how to do the research. There's a lot of people who are very good with codes. They're very good with their ability to see how things are, and they're all participating. And I don't think that I would be able to, or anyone would be able to post on Twitter or YouTube without big names that are trustworthy and have built their own reputations for, you know, having good judgment. I don't think they would stand for people just talking about it willy-nilly. And I mean, I'm just some guy on the internet, Steve. You know, I've been doing this for a while, but I've learned enough that I can see that there's something special here, you know, and then I follow the breadcrumbs from everyone else, and it's like, there's a lot going for this thing. You know, everyone's talking about it. It's big. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, this is the thing, is choosing over, like, I guess, yeah, I'll read your comment. Just a comment. You might be sad if you made a decision without getting educated. This is too important to let pass by. If you're letting your emotions drive your decision when it comes to this space, which is logical, like, it's hard to make the right decisions. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's hard. You want to, like, you really want to make sure that, in my experience, I'll speak from my own experience. If I was to say what I've learned, it's that logic makes better decisions in crypto by a long shot, and taking time to get logical and educated serves far more than just on how something makes me feel. You know, whyever that is, and however that is, whatever the feelings are, it's far better to get educated, in my opinion. To each their own, though. You know. So, George Reed question, is that $195 8-day payout one time only? That is one time until the next 8 days, and then you get another one. But the thing is, with this payout here for 8 days, we're only about 2 days into our 8-day accumulation period. So there's still 6 more days of accumulation that we're going to see. So this could be like $600,000, $700,000, $1 million for this next 8-day payout. Really depends. Like, we just don't know until this gets to that point. But if that's the case, then if we go back over to this calculator and we type in our billion again, then this could quadruple. You know, if there were $1 million, this could quadruple for that pool. You get $1,000 plus $2,300. So you basically see 50% of what you put in to the pool staked, obviously long, because you're maxing out the term to do this. But you can see 50% of your TITANX value returned to you in a day. You still have 3 other 8-day payouts coming before the 90-day. Then you have another 28-day payout and the 90-day. So there's just like so much to consider here, guys. It's just nuts. Yeah, it's perpetual. Exactly. Volt, you know I love this question. Oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I think really that's all I had for you guys in this stream. So I'll stay on for a little bit longer. And if you guys have any more questions, oh, you're funny, dude. Thanks for the great stream graphics. Really appreciate your hard work and amazing perspective. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Just do my best, you know. So yeah, if you cannot compare, yeah, they're very different, very different. Yeah, if you guys have any last questions, we'll stand for like 5 or 10 or 15 minutes more. We'll do some more stuff. But if you don't have anything else, I know you had to do it. I know, dude. um, if you guys don't have anything else, I'm gonna head out and get ready for maybe another stream tomorrow. Might record some more videos, but if you guys want to learn this stuff, like I've put in a lot of work, and like I said, the course is going to come out soon. Like Tank is saying, can't wait for the course, man. Yeah, be on the lookout for that. And also, if you want to work, if you have questions and you've worked faster one-on-one, I do coaching as well. So all my links are in the description. Feel free to hit them or not. It's totally up to you. There's zero pressure, but if you like working with one-on-one, I've had a lot of people actually out understand a lot of this stuff just one-on-one, which we shorten the time frame so quickly. So if that kind of thing suits you, perfect. I have that for that. This is designed to do a 10,000x. It certainly seems like it. Not saying it's going to. I hope so. I hope so for everyone in this chat. I hope so for everyone on TITANX. But we'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. Jamie X, great insights as always, man. Thanks. Hey, thank you, dude. I appreciate you being here. And thanks for what you do for the community too. You're always on it with the posts, always on it, spreading the love, sharing information, doing all that stuff. So yeah, keep doing you, man. You're awesome. And guys as well, if you're using these analytics pages, which if you just go to dune.com, okay, so that's what this is called. I'm going to type it in here. So where's my chat? Dune.com. And actually, I'll just drop the full link here. So if I type in TITANX. So here's the actual link to go to the dashboard where you can go and basically just paste this link in, and it'll bring you to this dashboard here where you have the Brian dashboard, the community dashboard. There's a bunch of different stuff. Like Cyber Diviners made a beautiful one. There's the staking dashboard by Sung, which is awesome. And then there's some of the ones that are also in here that are in Chinese, which you might look at and be like, whoa, I don't know if I can handle that. But I'll show you a little trick. If you go in here and, it's not this one. Let me go back to, I think there was a Chinese one I saw in here. Because some of the data is really good on these. But if you run into one that's, let's say, a different language, then you know how to, or then obviously you speak, right? All you got to do is click or control click or right click, and you can come down to translate to English. Little pro tip for you there. Works magically. So when you go to, also, where I was going with this is if you're using these and you see a donation link, guys, please support them. They do so much work. And like, this is a free tool, and I'm sure this took a lot of time to build, and it's been quite difficult. There's also a staking calculator. I think it's, let me see if I can find it. Titan. Please do the one. Did I remember it? Oh, nice. Okay. The other one, guys, and I'm going to share this. This is a cool tool that I actually forgot about until right this second. So if you come to titanxcalc.win, you can choose the mining day, the start date, and you can basically play with your ROIs. You can play with everything to look into the future. This is like your little crystal ball, if you will, to play with what your miners might look like in the future. And I do believe it includes T rank as well. I thought it did. It might. Right. Okay. So it might not. But this is a cool little calculator. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. Any of these tools that you guys see that are built by community members, highly recommend supporting them. They're amazing. Like if you're watching this and you built this, thank you, man. Thank you, whoever you are. Cool, guys. I'm not seeing any of the questions rolling in, so I think it's good to call it there, guys. Just stop sharing the screen. So thank you guys so much for being here. This has been a fun one. Always love talking about TITANX and Hyper, and there's so much that we can dive into. I mean, we can talk about minor price floors in the future. We can talk about, there's so much we can talk about with Hyper and TITANX. And I would like to get some more people on the channel and start talking about their thoughts on it, maybe get Jake back. And I would absolutely love to do more streams like this. Hopefully, I'll be able to do these maybe once or twice on the weekends. And I'll be chopping this up. So if you're just tuning in now, you can watch the whole thing. I'll also be chopping up this the stream into videos as well. So stay tuned for those. And like I said, guys, I had a masterclass I did last weekend. It went extremely well. I had like a bunch of people that showed up and they all absolutely loved it. Everyone learned so much. And I would highly recommend being on the lookout for the course on my website. And it's going to be available very soon. I have to chop everything up. Once it's there, be on the lookout for that. But I also do one-on-one stuff if you want to learn from me directly. You want to just talk about, this in a way that is more beneficial for you. So all the links are in the description there. My book, all that stuff. Anyways, enough about me. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys being here. It's been a fun one. Thank you for everyone that's here in the chat. Thank you for all the super chats. And if you haven't already, smash the subscribe button, and then share on Twitter if you enjoyed the stream. Let's get this thing blown up. Let's get TITANX trending, and let's get more people educated on just how this amazing system works. So thank you guys so much for being here again. I love you all, and peace.